If I told you that the money in your bank account isn't really money, at least not until someone else goes into debt to create it, you'd probably think I'm exaggerating, maybe even spreading some wild conspiracy theory. But what if I told you that the entire modern financial system, the one that governs your savings, your mortgage, your future, is built not on wealth, but on debt? And unless you understand exactly how this system was constructed, you're already caught in its trap, playing a game where the rules were written long before you were born. Welcome to Historic Finance Lab, the channel where we decode the past so you can survive the future. Today, we're re-pulling back the curtain on the biggest secret in modern finance: how money is actually created. This isn't just an academic exercise. Understanding this is your first step toward financial freedom. So, let's travel back in time. For most of human history, money was something tangible, something you could physically hold and feel. It was gold, it was silver. These metals had intrinsic value because they were rare, durable, and universally desired. If you had a gold coin, you had wealth. Simple. But as civilizations grew and global trade routes stretched across continents, carrying chests full of gold became incredibly risky and impractical. They noticed that on any given day, only a very small fraction of their depositors came in to claim their actual gold. Most of the gold just sat there collecting dust. This gave them a revolutionary and slightly devious idea. What if they lent out more paper receipts than the gold they actually had in their vaults? As long as everyone did unshow up at once to demand their gold scenario they deemed highly unlikely no one would ever know, they could earn interest on loans created out of thin air. This was the birth of fractional reserve banking. Money was no longer just something you held. It became something you were promised, a claim on value, not the value itself. This system worked most of the time, but when rumors of a bank's insolvency spread, it would trigger a bank run, a panic where everyone rushed to withdraw their gold at the same time. Of course, the bank didn't have enough gold for everyone, and it would collapse, wiping out the savings of its depositors. Fast forward to the early 20th century. These bank runs were happening constantly, causing widespread economic instability. It standardized the practice of fractional reserve banking and, in doing so, made a massive expansion of credit possible. They agreed to link their own currencies to the US dollar at a fixed exchange rate. The US dollar, in turn, was linked to gold at a rate of $35 an ounce. The dollar became the world's reserve currency, as good as gold. The United States had the unique privilege of printing the world's money, and as the costs of the Vietnam War and domestic social programs skyrocketed, the US government printed far more dollars than it had gold in its vaults to back them up. President Richard Nixon was faced with a choice. Either enact painful austerity measures to restore confidence in the dollar or break the link to gold entirely. He chose the latter. On August 15, 1971, Nixon announced to the world that the United States would no longer convert dollars to gold. The gold window was closed. This unshackled governments and banks. Without the discipline of gold, governments could borrow and spend on an unprecedented scale by simply issuing bonds, and commercial banks could create even more money with just a few keystrokes. And here's the part that most people never learn in school. When a bank gives you a loan, whether it's a mortgage for a house or a loan for a new carrot, is not lending you someone else's savings. That is a common misconception. Instead, when the bank approves your loan, it literally creates new money on the spot. It types the loan amount into your account, creating a deposit. At the same instant, it creates a corresponding asset for itself, your loan, which you have to pay back with interest. Money is born as debt. Once you understand that our entire global economy runs on a system of ever-expanding debt, certain things become predictable. First, inflation becomes a permanent feature of the economy. This leads to the boom and bust cycles we've become so familiar with, where periods of rapid expansion are followed by painful recessions. Third, wealth tends to concentrate at the top. Those who are closest to the money creation, spigot banks, large corporations, and the already wealthy benefit the most. They can borrow cheaply when money is created by assets like stocks and real estate, and watch their value inflate. Meanwhile, the average person who earns a salary and tries to save is fighting a losing battle against the silent tax of inflation. Explore side hustles, start a small business, or invest in assets that provide passive income. This creates a financial buffer that can protect you during economic downturns. Understand history. Read about economics. Follow financial news with a critical eye. The financial world was designed in a way that benefits the few who understand its inner workings. But that knowledge is no longer a secret.